everybody. Welcome to Wildwood Cafe, Outbound University, and the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center. It's time for the Alan Major Show with Niners head coach Alan Major. I'm Matt Swarad. Glad to have you along here tonight. Our phone number is 704-358-8768, 704-358-8768. Love to hear from you tonight. We'll be here until 8 o'clock. Also, we'll answer some email questions a little later on, too, and we have the questions for tonight, but if you'd like to send a question for a future show, the email address is major49ershow@yahoo.com. That's major49ershow@yahoo.com. So every Thursday here on 1660 America's Talk, we're back now throughout the rest of the season with the show. And, Coach, good to see you. And it has certainly been a long few days, and the outcome last night, not what we were looking for, but since that point, we've battled a storm in Philadelphia, had about a foot of snowfall from the start of the game until we left this morning. Spent a lot of time at the Philly airport today, but we got home, and just good to be back home.
It is, yeah. I kissed the ground. I kissed Halton Arena. I kissed anything I could kiss on campus once we got back, because that was a long day. But, thank God, made it back safely. And had heard a scary thing about UMass. They had, I think, an emergency landing of some sort. So, you always get nervous when that happens, but thankfully those guys are safe as well.
That was going up to St. Bonaventure, going into Bradford, Pennsylvania a couple of days ago. Their charter plane had to stop in Albany, New York because of smoke in the cockpit. But you're right, everybody was okay, a little nervous, but okay. They got a new plane, went on to St. Bonaventure, won last night. But they flew into Bradford, Pennsylvania. We did that. That was a snowy runway. Right. I can only imagine with the storm that was going on there in New York yesterday, too, what it was like for them getting in and out of Bradford.
I can only imagine, yeah. I'm guessing that runway was, covered with ice and snow like it was with ours. And the pilot said it was so packed down it was just like a regular runway anyhow. But yeah, you always get nervous when you hear about unexpected landings and all that stuff. But yeah, thankfully, everybody's okay within the conference.
Our phone number again is 704-358-8768. Also tonight, folks, if you're listening out there, want to give us a phone call. The first caller that gets through here tonight will give you 2 courtside tickets to the Xavier game. Compliments to the folks here at Wild Wing Cafe. So that big Xavier game coming up in a very short period of time is going to be one, of course, that tickets go quick for. We'll get you 2 courtside tickets for that from Wild Wing Cafe for the first caller that comes through tonight, 704-358-8768. Well, Coach, it's been a long stretch of games on the road. 6 of the last 8 have been away from Charlotte. So it's going to be nice to be able to spend a little bit of time here, work in your own building, and get to play in your own building.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, and again, we just watching films with the guys about a few minutes ago. Being at home doesn't entitle you to anything. It doesn't guarantee that the ball's going to go in. It doesn't guarantee that opponents are going to miss. You still have to make those things happen. It's just great to have that energy behind you in the stands and knowing that, every hustle play you make and every basket you score, you're going to have incredible support. So, but we got to still go out and make it happen. But it will be good to be here. And we learned a lot about ourselves on the road. I mean, obviously, didn't have the results that we want, but, just trying to paint it to the guys in a way of how fine a line the A-10 is. I mean, down 5 at Richmond on the road with 5 minutes to go. Duquesne game, it's 46-38 the other day, and we have the ball, and we had the ball at the rim. Unfortunately, it didn't go down, but, it's a chance to cut it to 6, cut it to 5. Now you're back right there in these games to compete to win them. Last night, same thing. Scrap back, and I think we got it to 6 with a minute and a half or something like that. So to their credit, they made their free throws and finished it. But, it's, when you – obviously we don't have the bodies that we want and the depth that we want, and we're not going to, kick tin cans and feel sorry for ourselves about that. But it does illustrate how fine a line, each game is within the conference. And, a few bounces here or there and a few stops here or there, a few buckets here or there, we're singing a little different song at this point.
There is a little carryover on the roster from the last time we were at the Liacouras Center. And I bring it up because that's just one of the places the Niners have had very little success in. And the games have not even been close. That's why I thought last night's game, the way it finished, very impressive with the way the guys kind of battled through and got back. And we're never out of the game, of course, but the lead did get to 16 for Temple in the second half. And to come back the way you guys did, being shorthanded, and put yourself in a position in the final minute and a half to who knows what happens if Temple misses some free throws. Maybe things get a little bit more interesting in the final
Yeah.
90 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just good to kind of see that the fight's still in the team. And you said you didn't really see that against Duquesne, but it was great to come back and see that last night.
Yeah. No, and guys were again, down after the game, but we just told them that there's not a coach on the staff that's ever going to give up on them. We love them to death. I don't know how long I'll be a head coach. Hopefully a long, long time. But this team, in its own way, has already etched itself in my memory and in my mind, in my heart forever, because they've overcome a lot. And are we what we want to be right now or not? But there's still enough ball left for us to generate some momentum and be a team that people do not want to deal with a month from now. And that's what we want to become. But yeah, it was impressive to scrap back and have that thing at single digits. Dario was down afterwards because he had the layup there. I think that would have cut it to 5 or 4 that rolled off the rim. So it's a possession game, and it's a fine line conference, and that is what we hope to continue to carry forward. Is just every play matters on both sides of the ball.
704-358-8768 is our phone call. Again, the first phone call that comes through tonight. 2 courtside tickets for the Xavier game coming up at home next Wednesday, February the 2nd. And that's always a fun, exciting game at Halton Arena. Niners' next game is this weekend on Saturday against LaSalle. LaSalle's going to play tonight, so we don't know what their numbers will look like come Saturday. But right now they're with a record of 9-11, same with the Niners. And LaSalle in the conference is 1-4. They're playing at the Palestra tonight against St. Joe's. That game was postponed last night. But the reason that game was postponed and ours wasn't is the fact that we're already in town. We had to travel. We could get there and play the game. Mm-hmm. The Palestra, I was told, we've played there in the past. It's tough to get to. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of parking. And since both are Philly schools, it didn't hurt them pushing it back a day. They're already in town.
Right.
So they felt it was just better for the fans and everybody not to play there last night. But it was okay for us to play at the Leo Corr Center.
Yeah.
It's easier to get to.
I see. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. But that'll be a battle. I mean, anytime you get those Big 5 games, I'm sure there'll be a great crowd. And, it goes so many different directions, those Big 5 battles between, those schools. And so, I know LaSalle's feeling good, to go to Rhode Island and win, which that's another place in league, because it's out there a little remote. You got to be hooked up mentally to go in there and play. So for them to go win out there last Saturday was big for them. So, but tonight will be a battle. I mean, because a Big 5 game takes a life of its own.
We'll talk more about LaSalle later, but when you look at them, they're 1-4, but they're really athletic, and Terrell Williams, a very, very talented player. So they've got a freshman guard, too, that they're pretty high on.
Yeah, the kid Tyreek Duran is talented. He, watched his AAU team quite a bit. We were recruiting the kid off of his AAU team when I was at Ohio State, so I got to see that kid some. And Eric Murray's, been a steady guy for him. And, Gillindo, I think between those 3 guys, they're averaging about 44 of their 77 points, between those 3 guys. So they kind of have a 3-headed monster that can get you, in their own way. But they're a team, they can score. I mean, they've proven they can score. Their margin has been about the same in their games in terms of very similar to us, number-wise. They score a few more points than us, but if you just look at how even they are with their opponent, they're both, us and them fairly evenly matched.
Phone number 704-358-8768. Our first email question brought to us by 49erfanatics.com comes from Nick Jones, coach. And Nick says, Sports Illustrated has the cover jinx, but I guess the Observer has one too, since David Scott wrote that great feature on Javaris Barnett. He's been in a little bit of a slump. Is it a midseason slump? Are teams playing him a little bit differently? Is it his confidence? Or is that kind of a part of all of it put together? Shooters have to be confident to shoot, right?
They do, yeah. And JB, before the UMass game, 2 days before, had pulled a, kind of like a hip / gluteal muscle that was giving him some issues. And I will give other teams credit. I mean, people do scouting reports, and they do their homework. And the thing I have to kind of continually catch myself is as we move forward into the depth of the season is, guys like, JB, even KJ, who's been now playing a month and 9 days, Gokin, Deuce. All those guys are in uncharted waters right now from an experience standpoint. The Dario and Braz are really the only guys that can say that they've been at some of the places they've been in terms of being on the road and being in heated games and being in the thick of it. You know, when you're on the bench last year, you know, with a couple of those guys, it's a little different than being out in the heat of battle. So it's good for them that they're going through it right now. And we told JB he's the same guy that was making shots 2 weeks ago, and that we're not down on him one bit. You know, he's going to get it back. He feels bad because he knows, you know, for us to play well and be successful, that he's a big part of it. So there's probably nobody more down on it than him. But, you know, I just told him the other day, you're the same guy that was running around Atlanta, Georgia, you know, down in Mercer making shots down the stretch, doing your thing. You know, we're not the least bit down on you at all. You know, just go out and compete and play hard. You know, get on the floor, make some hustle plays, and that takes your mind off of having to take that next shot. You know, and when you think about is that next shot going in or not, you know, you kind of become like the guy at Kings Island or amusement park, you know, with the double rim and they got the ball, extra air in it, and you know, you're standing there and your girlfriend's wanting the Cupid doll, and you know you feel all that pressure and you brick the thing. You know, then you got to pull another $5 out of your pocket for 3 more shots. So that's how it feels when a guy has been in a little bit of a slump. So, but we're never going to give up on a kid because he's not making shots and that type of thing. It's just JB's going to get it back, and again, really proud of the growth that he's had from last summer to now. He's been terrific for us.
Had that great first half too with 7 rebounds last night.
He did,
and,
yeah.
You know, we talk a lot about his you know, basketball skills, but he's a great student as well.
Yeah.
And just a fantastic addition to the program.
He is, yeah. What he is he represents, you know, what we want Charlotte basketball to be. You know, it's a guy that takes care of business off the floor. He's a great person in the community. You know, he wants to improve on his game. You know, he wants to become the best player he can become and max out his ability on the floor. And he wants to win. And so he's got all the qualities that we want guys in our program to have.
Phone number is 704-358-8768. The Alan Major Show here from Wild Wing Cafe, Outbound University. Our next email question comes from William Robertson. Coach, KJ's had a really good couple of games on the road, last couple of ball games out there. And last night, Temple, he had 12 games. The question is, was the Temple game his best game to date? Do you see him playing even more of a critical role, especially with our lack of depth inside?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was a career high for him last night, 12 points. So, you know, he made some great plays. I mean, he had a nice finish to the end of the first half, a hook shot, you know, to give us a little momentum going into halftime. Got a couple of putbacks in the second half. He ran the floor, got a ball from Dario in a layup. He's getting his energy back in terms of his conditioning. So, you know, I'm as excited about him as anybody. Again, you know, I just wish he would have had the benefit of being a part of this thing the whole way and not missing, you know, the time that he missed, because, you know, you can miss time, but then it takes you time to get back to what you were before you got hurt. So, but no, he did a nice job last night, really did.
Well, we got a lot more show coming for you. We're here until 8 o'clock. Our phone number is 704-358-8768. More email questions for you as well. And a special guest tonight coming up a little bit later on here at the show as well. From the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center at Wild Wing Cafe, this is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to Wild Wing Cafe, Outbound University, the Alan Major Show on 1660 WBCN, America's Talk. Our phone number is 704-358-8768. That's 704-358-8768. Take your phone calls tonight with Niners head coach Alan Major. And the Niners' next home game is coming up on Saturday. They're back home to take on LaSalle. That'll be 7 o'clock on Saturday. For tickets, call 704-687-4949. It is the beginning of 3 consecutive home games. Next week, we've got Xavier, and then the homecoming game against George Washington. So a lot of things going on. Coach, when you were at Xavier, they didn't have football, so I'm assuming basketball had the homecoming game, and that's what we got here coming from Ohio State. Now, it was certainly a different situation, but
right.
It'll be different come a few years from now, but right now you guys are going to be the homecoming game, and that's always a fun time with the alums coming back. And we've always had that alumni game. You
Yeah.
guys planning on doing that again?
Yeah, from what I hear even a couple guys that talking about coming out of retirement and playing. Uh, Orlando, one of my assistants was over to watch Byron Dinkins' team play last week, and Byron and Joe I think plan on playing. So, you know, part of the homecoming thing is great because those guys get to reconnect, and that's part of the reason why we did the reunion back in the fall, is that it could just be a one-time, um, a year where all these former guys can come back and get together, and they may not even get to see much of each other homecoming weekend, outside of the game itself. But that's an additional reason why we wanted to do another weekend in the fall where it's just any guy who's ever been a player, coach, manager, at Charlotte can come back and hang out. And eventually when I get a place to live, it'll be in my backyard, and it'll just be like the old locker room. Guys get together and have a good time. But those guys built our offices. They built Halton Arena, and they made it possible for Charlotte to have the program that it has today. So we want to honor them. And some of those guys have asked about, can they come watch practice or come by the office? And our one rule with them is if they ever call and ask permission, we're going to hang up the phone on them, because that's like you asking permission. And, honey, I'm right around the corner. Is it okay if I come home now? You would never ask permission to go home. And so for every alumni that's put on that uniform, Charlotte's their home. And we love it when those guys come around.
One of the more famous Niners of all time, Henry Williams, Indianapolis guy. Have you had a chance to spend much time with Henry?
Not much, no. And he, I know, his health-wise, it's been up and down. And there was an event I actually had to be out of town for, but Coach Mullins and a bunch of former players went to a sermon where Henry spoke at his church one weekend. A bunch of his guys, they kind of surprised him. He didn't know it was coming, and it was pretty emotional with his team. So. But we're the next step is we want to try to bring these guys back one at a time when they can, whether it's 5 minutes after practice, and share life lessons. What's it mean to be a 49er? What did it mean to them? What have they done since college and why? What were their experiences like when they were playing? I think that's part of having tradition and having things that the current guys can hold on to. And then our current guys, when they move on, we want them to come back and do the same thing. So it's a special group. I mean, I haven't had a chance to meet all those guys, but I got a great chance to meet them, a lot of them at the dinner back in the fall.
Oh, we'll talk more about that as we get closer to homecoming coming up during this homestand, and of course LaSalle coming up this weekend. And hopefully a good crowd for that on Saturday, 704-687-4949, the ticket office number. Give John George and his staff a call tomorrow to get you tickets for that game over the weekend. Coach, let's take a look at the Bojangles Bow Time turning point of one of the most recent games. We had the Duquesne game, of course, last weekend, Temple last night. Let's go back to Duquesne for a moment. You guys made that run before halftime. Got it to, I think it was a 7-point game at that point, 7 or 9.
9, yeah, 39-30. Yeah.
And you felt like you had a little momentum going in.
Yeah.
Deuce hit that jumper at the end before halftime. But they came out and made a run. I guess right then and there, the start of the second half, turned it back to their favor, and we never really got going again.
Yeah, and I think that point I mentioned a second ago, was talking about those 3 games. And the one thing, we've had our share of seasoning. I mean, to be at Richmond, to be at Duquesne, and to be at Temple, to play in those places and to have shots, throughout the game, to be right there if you just tighten up a little bit on either side of the ball, and I thought in addition to, to piggyback off your point, the turning point was 46-38, about 16 minutes to go in the second half. And I think it might have been Deuce or Dario that came off a ball screen, got to the rim, rolled off the rim. That happens, doesn't go down, but that potentially makes it a 6-point game. And so now that gets your defensive energy back up. You go back down the floor, maybe you get another stop, you come back, cut it to 4, and now you start chipping away. And, Duquesne, the home team, as that goes on, they probably get tighter, the more we stay after them. So it's just little things like that. And I thought, and they consequently went on, I want to say, a 9-0 run. I believe. So it's
Yes.
46-38. All of a sudden, it's 55. And so that's how fine the line it is in this league from one play to the next, or how 3 or 4 plays on one side of the ball can change a game.
Coach Everhart now is in his 5th season. This is by far his best team. They're 6-0 and the best start in school history in the A-10 for Duquesne. And who knows what's going to happen the rest of the season, but they're playing great. And he's had a couple of good teams along the way. He's been building the program. It's been a process. As a coach, when you talk with other coaches, your friends around the industry, it used to be back, especially in the pros, there was a 5-year plan.
Right.
You got there, you had 5 years. And,
Right.
and this is his 5th year. They've made some strides before, but this is their kind of breakout year.
Yep.
As a coach and talking to your coaching friends, have you seen a change, though, away from that?
Yeah, it's probably 3 to 4 anymore. It's not quite 5. I think what happens is when you have some schools that have great success that maybe aren't supposed to, I think administratively people can think, wow, why can't we be like them? And sometimes their priorities of that place are different than the priorities of a place of that saying, why can't we be like them? But him, for 5 years, I think he's right on target. I'm guessing. I'm not sure what his plan was.
Sure.
But, I think he's right where you want to be in contending for the league. And we would hope that it doesn't take us that long. We'd like to make a run at it much sooner than that. But this year is teaching us that, of laying the foundation, building our blocks. And the guys that I've talked to about that, they've been unbelievable. And their big thing has been, hey, stay the course. Get guys to understand what it means to compete hard, to understand what it means to play the Charlotte way, and that's what this first year is about. And so I was mistaken. I thought it was either 3 or 4, before going to Duquesne. I wasn't aware that it was his 5th. So, but no, he's got his team in place. They're playing really well.
They really are, and there's been some changes since we've been in the league with some teams that really weren't big players in this league before, starting to kind of chip through, and some of the ones that were, like the George Washingtons, kind of fell off, and now they're starting to come back a little bit now. And it's going to be interesting to see what Coach Pecora can get going in Fordham. They've been trying for so long, and he had some wins in the preseason, but hasn't really kind of paid dividends yet in conference play. And we've talked about conference play is just so different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's the A-10 now from when we were together at Xavier with Coach Mata back in 04 is when we left. It wasn't as deep as it is now. It was still a talented league, but there's more good teams now, and there's more of like a beating up on each other going on throughout the league, because on any given night you literally got a team that can go somewhere else and win. So it's not like it's, just 1 or 2 teams that are just that far ahead of everybody else. It's much more balanced, and conference play, it's just a different deal. Every possession, it's like football, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and home or road, it's going to be a battle every night regardless.
It's kind of a catch-22 when you look at it, because our first couple of years in the league was a little more balanced, and there wasn't, the 4 5 great teams with a bunch of teams at the bottom. It was a little more balanced, and teams kind of beat up on each other. And once you got into conference play, that was almost a negative for those teams trying to get the at-large bids, because you just never separated yourself from the pack.
Right.
And then the last couple of years, you had the really good 5 or 6 teams doing the separating. And it seems like this year we're kind of moving back a little bit towards a little bit more parity.
Yeah. And some of that is class balance, too. And if you get some younger teams that are in that mode, it could be next year could just as easily be one of those years like you're talking about, where you get back to that, 4 or 5 teams that are, where it's a little bit more top heavy.
Our phone number is 704-358-8768. Still have those tickets to give away for the Xavier game, which is coming up next Wednesday at Halton Arena. The next call we get, will be getting those tickets for the Xavier game. A couple of courtside seats for that game next Wednesday. Let's go back to the email questions, Coach. We've got a question coming up from Mark Simmons, and he says, Coach, I know that Gokin is more of a perimeter player, talking about Gokin Cern, with a great outside shot. With our lack of front court depth, is there an opportunity for him to play bigger? He is 6'9", so can he play small forward, and is he a rebounding presence? And again, this is from Niner alum Mark.
Gokin, his skill is shooting the basketball. It's an elite skill to his credit. I mean, you almost feel like every time when he's open, you're surprised when he misses. And he's made himself relevant, for us. I mean, right now he's sitting at, almost 44%, from three. So the next thing with him as we finish out the year and we get into next year with him is building, more of a foundation around that shooting skill. So now people just can't put on a scouting report, okay, when number 3 checks in, he's a shooter, don't let him shoot. Well, as he gets stronger in the offseason, as he builds his toughness in the offseason, now rebounding becomes more of a factor. Now, being a better defender becomes more of a factor, all those things. Maybe now even posting up smaller guys, and getting, down there where you can, shoot it, jump hooks and fadeaways up over smaller guys, when there's an opportunity to do that. So, but yeah, for him, I'm not sure what his minutes were last year in terms of, impact, but, right now he's, 14 minutes a game, and we just want him to feel like when he's open that we want him to shoot the ball, because that's a skill that he brings that's necessary for us.
He's been working hard, trying to put on weight, working in the weight room with Ryan Atchison, the strength and conditioning coach. For some of us, you, me, it's not that hard to put on weight, right? For Gokin, it's been very, very hard. He's eating the right things. He's eating as much as he can. He's doing the weights, but the weight is coming slow, and as it comes slow, the strength is just not there yet.
Yeah, and it's getting there. It's better than it was last year, and it's hard to sometimes make gains during the season because you're, still practicing hard. You got games, so you're still burning calories at a fairly high rate. Whereas in the off season, when you're not having 5 practices, 6 practices a week, that's, I think, as he gets into April, May, he'll be able to pack on some pounds. And you're right. I mean, me and you, we look at a hot wing and gain 4 pounds. So
I think I did a little while ago with the potato skin.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, but for him, when you're a college basketball player, metabolism's already high, and then you're burning calories, with the workouts and things like that. So, usually between the spring and summer is when he'll make his strides.
Next question, Coach, comes from Ed Sale, and he says, I really enjoy the Tennessee game at Time Warner Cable Arena for a lot of reasons, especially a BCS conference win. As much as I love Halton Arena, will you try to play at least one game at Time Warner Cable Arena every year?
Yeah, we'd like to. Yeah, I love that environment down there. I love Halton more, but I enjoyed it that night. I think the fans were unbelievable that night. That's still not to live too far in the past, but that was a special night for our program and for the kids just to know, when we're hooked up and ready to roll, what we are capable of. So we'd like to do it every year if we can, whether it's an ACC school or things of that nature. So it's in the plans as we get into next year's schedule. If there's an opportunity to do it, we'd love to do it.
Being a city that does host NCAA tournaments this year, we're going to be hosting the second and third rounds at Time Warner Cable Arena. That's always an incentive for some of these schools to come thinking they might be placed in this region and get a chance to see that venue early.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's a win-win deal. For us to get to play downtown. It's a little different crowd, down there. You get the uptown crowd involved, and obviously the Niner Nation itself in terms of our normal fan base and the students was tremendous that night too. So hopefully next year it'll work out again. We'd love to do it.
Coach, our last question tonight from the email questions is Jesse Myers. And he said last night during the postgame show you mentioned how much you love the guys. What makes you say that? Is there something special about these guys that you will always remember and take with you as your coaching career continues? You kind of touched on it earlier, but if for folks that maybe didn't hear it back then, to go back and revisit it.
Yeah, it's just been one of those years where, and you never know how years are going to play out, but it's just been a lot of unique challenges from, the suspensions to the injuries, 2 ACLs in the first week of practice. And obviously, we've had our losses along the way on the roster. But for the guys that have kind of, endured and stayed with it, their ability to continue to practice hard and rally around each other. A lot of teams would probably, cash it in, or a lot of guys would have tossed up their hands and say, you know what, enough's enough. We just can't take another deal, but they've been great, and we told them that last night because, are we what we want to be yet? No, but we're just every day we're trying to get them to capture what we can become, and for them just to continue to rally around each other. Like I say, hopefully I'm coaching a long time, but these guys have got their own place in my mind and my heart for sure.
Especially being your first team, I'm sure forming these bonds that are going to be something that you will take for the rest of your life and coaching career especially.
Definitely.
Before our next timeout, Coach, the weekly Time Warner Cable bundle package stuffer, Time Warner Cable. Give them a phone call, 1-800-TW-CABLE today to find out more about that internet bundle TV package of the phone and television. Well, looking at the game last night, we talked about KJ Sherrill with the 6 of 9, 12 points, 5 rebounds in 25 minutes. That was very impressive. Also, Chris Braswell, 7 of 10 shooting the ball, 15 points, 5 rebounds, and a block shot in 30 minutes. And he was on the floor a lot, played a lot in the second half without picking up fouls. At the 3 in the first half. He's starting to really improve offensively. You guys are going to him more.
Yeah.
I think he's also taking more of the weight because he knows he's the really big inside scoring presence right now.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think when a guy knows you're going to get multiple touches, and I think he's settling into what he likes to do down there. He's got some favorite things that he does. He's always been great offensive rebounding and having a nose for the ball. So the next step is we want to get KJ to develop that same mentality, because it's tough sometimes to play both those guys since they almost sub for each other. You got to be careful that they're not out there too long together because they get tired together.
Right.
So, and that's where, obviously, unfortunately, not having Phil, gave us that third guy, and you could just rotate him. And obviously, Phil gave us a, tremendous defensive presence with size and, changing shots around the rim and things like that. So, but no, we want KJ and Brass both to feel like when they're in there that, we're going to go to them. And, we just want them to continue to hone their craft every day so they have great trust. And when they do catch the ball, that they got a favorite thing that they can go to. And if they don't have that, there's a, kind of a counter move that they can go to.
Our phone number is 704-358-8768. The 49erfanatics.com broadcast center here at Wild Wing Cafe. We're going to break now for our TIAA Krebs Student Athlete Spotlight feature. Take a commercial break after that and come back here to Wild Wing Cafe with our special guest tonight. This is the Alan Major Show from Wild Wing Cafe from Signature Sports Group. Well, our special guest today is none other than Tom Whitestone, who's the Associate Athletic Director for Media Relations with the Niners, and he's been here an awfully long time and handles all the media for the basketball team, plus a lot of other sports on campus. But, Tom, you've been here, gosh, it's been well over 20 years now.
Well over. You don't have to stretch it too far, but started here in 88, 89, so 20, 23, 24, I don't know. It's been a while, though, that's for sure.
We were joking around earlier. I was one of your interns back in 1990, 91 with you and Mark Colon and in the Sports Information Office, and how things have really changed with the way your job is done and the way you guys get the message out to the media locally and nationally. And it's changed for the better, but there's probably a lot less physical work being done these days.
Certainly. I know that when we were talking earlier, we were remembering the days back in the storage room where we were running off our copies and collating them, stapling them by hand, and trying to get our releases out, folded into envelopes and mailed off to the media. You do that at the beginning of the week so the media would get the release by the end of the week. And by the end of the week, it was really old news in a lot of cases. So now, obviously, with technology, the information moves a lot quicker, and now instantaneous, really. But yeah, we spent a lot of hours, it seemed like, folding those releases, collating, stapling, doing a lot of it by hand, and yeah, thankfully things have changed.
I think a lot of folks, when we work in sports, think, well, first of all, we get a great job, and we do. We have really fun, interesting jobs, but it's not just going to the game. For you, you got practice, you got hours of watching film. For you, it's just a lot of work and just the process of getting ready for a game with media notes. That takes hours upon hours to get it done. And I've always said I think some of your notes are the best out there in terms of really the detail. But that's not something you just sit down and just bang out in 10 minutes. It's a process.
Oh, certainly, yeah. The game notes can take anywhere 4 to 5 hours. We had a game last night. I started working on them a little bit last night. While we had some time after the game, and did some more a little bit this afternoon or this morning when we were at the airport waiting, and I'll do some more. I'll finish them up tomorrow, obviously. But yeah, the game notes before the game, you get them out. Those take a while to do, and then after the game, you've got the post-game reporting. And I know the post-game reporting has changed quite a bit now as well, because one thing we do in our office is try and put up flip videos of the post-game press conferences that coach and the players talk at. We put up some highlight films from our home contests that are attached to the game stories on the website. There's the emails that go out with the game recaps and all that. And then you've got the normal stuff of making sure your stats are updated and posted on the web and distributed to the coaches so they know what's going on with their team. And so there's a lot that goes into it on the front end and the back end. And certainly the enjoyable part is the middle part where you get to watch the games.
It's also about developing relationships because locally, we are the only Division I men's basketball team in town, but it's a professional sports town, and you're trying to get your message out amongst the Bobcats, the Panthers during football season. So there's a lot involved. It's not just, sending out a news release. There's a lot more just personal relationships involved, too.
Yeah, certainly. I think that we pride ourselves on the fact that we do have a pretty good relationship with the Charlotte media. The TV folks that come out to our practices and games are always pretty appreciative of how easy we are to work with and how willing we are to, make things easy for them when they come out. We've got the players and the coach available when we say they will be, and we'll help them really get their job done as quickly and easily as possible. And then, of course, with the Observer, we've had the changeover this year from Jim Utter to David Scott, but David's worked with us quite a bit in the past as well, so we already had a foundation there with that relationship, but that's been growing this year as well. And we also have the columnists, Scott Fowler and Tom Sorensen in particular, Ron Green Jr. we work with quite a bit, especially on the golf side. But there's so many media members that we work with, the folks out at FNZ, of course, each of the TV stations here in Charlotte, and then in particular at the Charlotte Observer.
Of course, you have a very close working relationship with Coach Major. Coaches, as you work together, and this being the first, head coaching position for you, things have changed from being an assistant to being a head coach, and what is on you that is not coaching basketball in terms of what you have to do with the media. How's that been?
Yeah, it's different. We used to joke about as assistant, nobody wants to talk to you, but at times at Ohio State, because of the size of the school, there were opportunities where different assistant coaches would have things, media-wise going on with reporters and pregame scouting stuff, things like that. But Tom does a great job because he's kind of like I'm like running back, and he's like the guy, opening up holes, just blocking and, making sure the way is clear, so people just don't pop up and knock on the door and say, hey, can I talk to you, and Tom's nowhere around. So he's always right there, and there's never a time I don't know what's going on, and that's the beauty of it. So it makes it easy. But, I think the biggest change is that, there's more of it. As an assistant coach before, maybe once, twice a month, I might do something on the radio if it's a scouting related thing. And here it's, it's much more frequent. So, but no, it's enjoyable. And David Scott, does a good job as well. And, it's an opportunity for us at times too to get our program's message out there. I think a lot of times, sports and then media can have a negative connotation, and that's not always the case. I think when negative issues happen, it can have you see things, ESPN and various exchanges and things like that. But for us, it's a great opportunity to get Charlotte's message out there and to especially spread it around town.
Tom, you've seen so much growth in this university since you have been here, and I'm wondering if there's one or two things that maybe stand out in your mind. Of course, you met your wife, Kim, who's a senior associate AD here with the 49ers. You met her here, so your family's been here in Charlotte. But is there something that you've seen throughout the years that you've been here that kind of stands out?
Well, I think the main thing that we've seen is since I first started working here in 87, 88 has been the continued growth of the program. It goes on up until this past couple weeks where the new tennis courts that we've been building were completed, and they're going to be building the tennis facility here shortly. But when I first started here, our men's basketball games were held at Independence Arena or the Charlotte Coliseum off campus. Halton Arena did not exist. Having that on campus and bringing the games onto campus has really helped instill a lot of school spirit among the students in particular. Before they had to drive 20, 30 miles to get to a basketball game. Now they can just roll out of their dorm rooms, library, head right to Halton Arena. The soccer stadium, track and field was built in 1996. That has helped elevate those programs. We just recently, within the last couple of years, completed Hayes Baseball Stadium, beautiful stadium to watch a baseball game at. We've had great renovations done at the softball stadium. So we've had continued growth, it seems like, since 87, 88, and we've paid particular attention to each of the sports as well. We completed Rocky River Golf Facility for the golf program. Even the ATAC, the Athletic Training and Academic Center, that has a weight room dedicated to student athletes, academic center dedicated to student athletes, and that continued growth that has helped each of the programs and each of the student athletes that have come through the program, I think, is the most telling thing that's happened over the last 20 years.
And the growth will continue with the groundbreaking of a new football stadium coming up this spring as well. So your job's going to get even tougher. You've got the NCAA tournament, the second and third rounds coming up this year. So when our season's over, hopefully it's not going to be over for a while, but when it is, you've got that as well. So you are very busy right now.
Yeah, this is a busy time of year, but it's an enjoyable time of year, certainly with the spring seasons kicking in. We've got baseball and softball. Tennises are already underway. The track and golf will get going as well. Basketball is men's and women's getting into their crunch season in conference play and heading into the conference tournaments. And then, as you said, that rolls over into the NCAA tournament, the postseason, and before long, groundbreaking on a football stadium. Yep.
Tom, thanks so much.
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Tom Whitestone's been our guest, Associate Athletic Director for Media Relations with the 49ers, and he mentioned the Niners, all the facilities. Well, Halton Arena is going to be having its 200th game coming up on, well, the Dayton game, I believe, is the 200th game. So it's flown by. It's certainly one of my favorite arenas, and this Saturday will be our 150th win in that building, as we take on LaSalle on Saturday. So there you go, Coach. I put it out there. Our phone number is 704-358-8768. We're back with more of the Allen Major Show in a moment. Also want to tell you that our interview was brought to you by Ortho Carolina. Ortho Carolina, you improve the official team positions of the 49ers. This is the Allen Major Show from the Wild Wing Cafe, 49erFanatics.com broadcast center from Signature Sports. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe from the 49erFanatics.com broadcast center with Coach Major. I'm Matt Swarad. We got about 5 minutes or so left of the show. Game coming up this weekend is LaSalle. That'll be at 7 o'clock on Saturday. For tickets, call 704-687-4949 tomorrow to get those. And LaSalle coming in. Tonight they're playing tonight at home against St. Joe's. It's actually at the Palestra, but it's a LaSalle home game. So we don't know what their record will be. Right now they're 9-11, Coach. They're 2-3 in road games, but here's a team scoring 77 a game. They're giving up 78, so it's been a team that likes to score in the upper 70s, likes to get up even higher than that if they can.
Yeah, they got three guys that are legit. Eric Murray's legit. Jarrell Williams, we talked about him earlier. He's legit, and Gillendale had a big game against Duquesne. They lost the game at home, but he was sensational. Had 24 points and shot the three great. So they got good balance in their starting lineup, and you got different guys that can hurt you. So we'll have to have big time energy Saturday night, and our own energy, and then hopefully that energy, which we want to do, is ignite Halton Arena's energy. with our defensive effort and our scrapping, and make it tough for these guys to score and have a successful evening. So, but they're talented. They've been right there as you look at some of their games. Had a few overtime games and so the big thing for us again is just getting back to being that team that's first on the floor, hustle plays, and just not giving up anything easy. That's a big thing with us as we move forward.
Rebounding will be a key. They're one of the better rebounding teams in the league at 38 change a game.
Yeah.
Trying to keep them off the boards on second and third effort, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they had a bunch against Rhode Island. I want to say 16 offensively against UMass the week before. I want to say they had 19 offensive rebounds. So to have that many opportunities, the offensive rebound, I mean, it's a good thing because they're missing. You just don't want them to get it back. And so, usually if you can keep a team around 10, it's pretty good. 8 to 10 is a good number. And once they get past 10 to 12, you're pushing it. You get past 12, then they're gonna put some of those back in. So, we want to have more one and dones as opposed to offensive rebound where they just get one shot, you block them out, and then you can take off and have an opportunity to score in transition.
There's so much basketball left this season. We're not even at the halfway point of the conference season, even though it seems like we've been playing for a while. I think because we've been on the road for so long.
Yeah.
But one thing where this game is big, it's at our building, a chance to get a win against a team that is going to be probably not in the middle of the pack of the league. Probably one of those teams fighting to get the final 2 or 3 spots into the conference tournament. Mm-hmm. And we've already, of course, beaten Fordham. We've got St. Joe's at our place.
Right.
So a win against LaSalle, if it comes down to it, you have a tiebreaker against a lot of those teams towards the bottom that
right.
get you into the field.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's you're doing your own little share of positioning in your own way. So obviously we want to get the game so we can get some momentum going and get ourselves back, getting some traction as we move forward. So but that is a factor too. That's almost like a sidebar to the game as well, no doubt.
Just was handed a score from Tom Whitestone. Halftime, LaSalle is beating St. Joe's right now 34-27. The Allen Major Show is brought to you in part by Masson, the home of college basketball. College basketball and Masson, this game is true. Coach, another one is in the books, so we'll go back to work on Saturday and take on LaSalle. And, of course, get some rest tonight. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Good day of practice tomorrow, and
yep.
Best of luck over the weekend.
Thank you. Yeah, it'd be great to be back in Halton, that's for sure.
I want to thank the folks from WFNZ and WBCN as well, Darryl McCray and Travis Hancock. And for all of us for the Niners, I'm Matt Swarad from the FortniteOfFanatics.com broadcast center here at Wild Wing Cafe. Thanks so much for listening here to the Allen Major Show. We'll see you on Saturday from Halton as the Niners take on LaSalle. Good night, everybody.